Hi everyone, I'm Sriharsha. I'm the co-founder at Questbook. We are building a decentralized grant orchestration tool. Today, I'm going to talk about how grants are used as a go-to market in this web3 space. Okay, firstly, what will you get out of the session? So here are the three key takeaways which you'll be having after the session. First, in what situations is getting grants more valuable than taking money from the VC? Now, what are the scenarios in which you consider VC funds are a better source? And now, with Web3 coming into the picture, you also have grants. When do you choose grants over VCs? We'll dive deep into it in the session. Second, you'll also learn what do these grants get? Is it just money, or are there other services these protocols are providing for these developers? Will this be the best way for a newcomer to break into this ecosystem? In Web2 space, we have always seen that these new developers who come into the ecosystem face a chicken and egg problem. They don't know how to get their initial community. They don't know how to get their initial users. They don't know how to get their initial payments. Is Web3 solving this space in a different way? Is grants one of those such ways? Let's go deep into the session and figure it out. Let's talk about validation and high quality feedback. Some of the best minds in this industry are running these grants programs. Even at these protocols like Ethereum, Uniswap, all the top minds of the protocols take lead on this grants program. Why is that? Let's understand, why do these protocols have to run this grants program? Now, protocols have launched their tokens. How will this token price go up? This is what they own. This is their wealth. For the token price to go up, the tools needs to be built on top of this infrastructure. And why is that? That is because when you have tools built on top of this infrastructure is when you'll have more transactions happening on this infrastructure. This enables the coin value to go up, more trade value, more transactions happening on this infrastructure. There is more usability of this token, which in turn makes these token prices go up. Which is why these protocols care a lot about getting tools built on top of their infrastructure, and only way for them to get that done by these developers is incentivize them. How do they incentivize? Through grants. Especially if the project is composable in nature, these conversations fast track progress by leaps and bounds. So when you are launching your own project into this space and when you are launching it as a grant, you have the best minds connected to your project. The more composable it is. We have heard about composability in design in Web2 as well, but in Web3 it's way more valuable. Developers can bootstrap their own projects and communities without having to build everything from scratch. Lot of these pieces, modules are already out there. All you have to do is to connect these pieces and build out your own USP. Launch your own USP part of the code and connect these dots to launch your own project. This is more open in nature. This is more open sourced in nature, and the community element of Web3 is the most beautiful part in this ecosystem, which enables a lot of these developers to come together, collaborate and contribute to the ecosystem. So the composability is the key factor here, which is helping the progress go at such a rapid pace. Community onboarding. More powerful than liquidity provider onboarding. What happens during this community onboarding? Okay, the protocol has now given you a grant. They invite you onto their public Twitter Spaces session. They will help you conduct AMAs on their Discord, AMAs on their Telegram. They help you connect to their community. I think this has never been done in the traditional Web2 space ever before. With the Web3 coming into picture, the protocol is incentivized for you to grow. Mind you, this is not an investment. This is still a grant. In some sense, they are invested in you. When you are building on top of this infrastructure, as I have previously explained, their token price is going up. So it's in best interest of the protocol to help you grow. And they do everything with their muscle power. They have a huge community. They have a lot of connects. And they provide this ramp for you to get your initial users. As part of this community onboarding, this builds a lot of trust for these developers. They trust the protocol. Now, because the protocol is supporting and promoting your particular project, the credibility attaches to your project as well. Now developers start looking at you as a credible source. They take you more seriously. They explore the product. And the most beautiful part of Web3 is sometimes they own up the project more than even you do. That is how these whole huge communities in Web3 space are being built. People take ownership of what's getting built. Not to mention, airdrops have been a huge hit, and there is also an incentive for the community to own these projects up, because they get the initial set of the tokens. Again, token economy kicking in, the price of these tokens go up, and the people who have initially taken the ownership from the community get valued. The whole beautiful incentivization mechanism in this Web3 is making sure that the progress is super fast. We should be thankful that we have come across such a community and the ecosystem at this point of time, which is enabling this technology to grow at such a rapid pace. Negative CAC. Have we ever heard about negative cost of acquiring a customer? In traditional Web2 space, we have been paying a lots and lots for acquiring these users. We do paid promotions, we do paid user acquisitions, we do paid celebrity onboarding. But in Web3 space, for the first time, you'll come across negative CAC. What is negative CAC? You're not just getting the users, in fact, but getting paid for it. As more users onboard, you get amounts from these protocols. So how does this grants program work? Say I'm a developer, I launch my own project. Now I request for a grant, maybe it's a $30,000 grant. Now I need to explain to the protocol how I'm going to use this $30,000. So I'll give a detailed roadmap of what I'm going to do with my project, what are my steps on when it comes to onboarding users, how am I going to launch my own token, where do I use this $30,000 funds, when do I hire a designer, when do I hire a developer, and how much am I going to pay them. This is not it. Protocols also care about how you're onboarding the users. In fact, a lot of these popular protocols have a milestone based payouts where after the initial project is launched, they pay you for every 10,000 users. So for these users, you're not only just getting the users for your project, but also getting paid from the protocol. This was never done before in Web2 space. Now, when you get these users and getting paid by the protocols, you're just onboarding community after community. And it is such a seamless experience because these communities believe in you. Of course, this happens only if these communities are relevant to your project. But nevertheless, you're just onboarding a huge bulk of users and getting paid for the protocol. This was never done before. These equity-free grants are subsidized by treasuries to move this ecosystem forward. That is their incentive. That is why these protocols are putting in this huge funds into your project even though you're getting the users. Which projects have done this really, really well? Let's dive deeper into those projects where you need to take inspiration from. There have been some huge projects. Want to know? Yes, one of the most important and the biggest project which came out in the Web3 space in the recent past is Uniswap. This multi-billion dollar protocol right now was an outcome of a grant request put up by Hayden. You can find some screenshots on the slide here where Hayden was announcing about the project in the initial days. Not just that, Rabbit Hole and EPN as being amongst the other popular grant projects. So all you need is a great idea and you have communities to support you. You have protocols to give you funds. And these are not investments, by the way. These are funds given out by the protocol to give you that initial capital, to give you that initial push in all the ways possible. Not just money, they also do a lot more. We talk about that in the coming slides. But they help you with the community onboarding, which has been the most difficult problem to solve for any Web2 startup. Go to any Web2 startup. What is the first question? Hey, I'm having a chicken and egg problem. I didn't prove my credibility yet. I need to get my users. But when I go to get users, users ask for credibility. How can I even prove my credibility if I don't have the users? How will I show revenue if I don't have users? Users are coming here only looking at my previous users. Now, all these problems are out there in Web2 space. Whereas in Web3, where the protocol is attaching its credibility to your project and helping you onboard these communities, so you get the initial push, and that's not it, and you're also getting this initial capital from these protocols. This is where the huge respect for these protocols and this entire Web3 space, you're encouraging new ideas, you're encouraging new innovations, which is enabling this technology to move really fast. Let's talk about what are the different types of grants. Okay, now we have come up with the project. Now, how much money should the project give? What are the buckets into which these projects fall into? Let's talk about the different types of grants exist out there. The grant money which a protocol disperses varies from $1,000 to $1 million. Let me share a few examples and few different types of grant requests so that you can figure out into which bucket you fall into. There are some next step grants where you have already an existing project and where you get to choose these are my next steps which might be helpful for the protocol. So it's in the best interest of the protocol to incentivize the developer for that particular step. Micro grants, these are smaller grants where this could be even not even a technical project. Maybe it could be for content writing, it could be for designing a website. By the way, there are a lot of Web2 opportunities in the Web3 space. A lot of these grants also are being dispersed to folks who are going out and building out the Web2 stuff on top of this Web3. A lot of UI UX issues, as you might always know, they exist in the Web3 space. And if you're in Web2 and you're not yet introduced to Web3, this is a great way to break in. Retro grants, where you have already built and figuring out, there are rapid grants, partnership grants, open grants. RFP grants is a very interesting bucket. RFP stands for request for proposals. Okay, what was the need for these protocols to launch their RFPs? So previously, all the protocols have started off with, like most of the protocols have started off with open grant programs where people can come in from the communities, the previous bucket which I was talking about. The community comes in and pitches with their ideas. The community comes in and tells, hey, these are the ideas on which I want to work upon. And now, will that be helpful for the protocol? Not really. What if a protocol comes up and says, hey, I'm going to disburse this $3 million in the coming next 2-3 months. But all the projects which have been submitted for this grants program are not relevant to the protocol. Or maybe relevant to the protocol, but not relevant at this point of time. So the protocols have come up with these RFPs, request for proposals. They have internally sat with their code team and have discussed, hey, these are the tracks in which the next things needs to be built. There is an NFT track, there is a DeFi track, there is a gaming section. So all these verticals are being created and they get more specific. Hey, we are trying to launch a wallet. Hey, we are trying to launch an ecosystem. We are looking out for a community builder. So more specific asks from the protocol have come across. Now people who are applying, go apply and build on the project only if they are relevant to the specific RFP. Now this saves time both for the protocol and the developer, and it's also a right use of money for the protocol. But this works only if the internal team is confident that this is what needs to be built for the protocol. This might not always be true, because in Web3, unlike Web2, it's not just a group of people, but it's the community which runs the protocol. It's the community which runs this company. Now when it's owned by the company, the ideas also come from the community. If you're not open to new ideas coming up from the community, you might realize that, hey, you have not even thought about that existence of such a vertical. A lot of great ideas have come up without the RFPs. But RFPs work if you're confident and if you're sure that the next things that needs to be built for the protocol are laid out, and then RFP is the best route for a protocol to go ahead. There are small, medium, big grants. There are maintenance grants. There are existence of communities. There are existence of tools, but you need somebody to maintain it for a project, maintain that particular tooling or the community for a certain period of time, and you're given a grant for that. Now look at it from the Web2 lens. If you are working at Google, you can't work at Microsoft or Facebook. You are signed up for a contract. But in Web3 space, it's way different. Every task is outsourced and incentivized. I might be wrong if I'm even calling it outsourced, because there is nothing like out in Web3, because everything is community. The community comes and picks up these tasks and builds these smaller projects which needs to be done for the protocol, and they are incentivized. If you look at it in the Web2 space, this is more like freelance work. You have a small task, you go get it done and get incentivized. This is how the Web3 space is working right now and has been working really well for the protocols. There are sponsored grants, level 1 to 3 grants, proposal grants, community grants, and ecosystem grants. Protocols have also launched developer support programs, ecosystem DAOs for grants, where community gets to vote on these ideas. Okay, now you have given out the proposal. Will it be an internal team? Will it be an entire community? Both of them are not great solutions. There has to be a blend, which is why the governance tokens, people having greater insights into the community, own a higher weightage for their vote, and voting is done on your proposal draft. When you draft your proposal with your idea, it goes into the community where the voting is done and your proposal is rated and given out a grant. This has worked really well, except that you need to find a really active community members, and for a vibrant community in the Web3 space, this is the best option to go after. Now, let's talk numbers, the most interesting part. What is the total fund in this ecosystem? Do you want to take a guess? Do you want to know how much money protocols have put aside just to enable these grants and get things built by the developers? Let me reveal it to you. It's $10 billion, and maybe even more than that. These are just the numbers which are put out there, but there are a lot of treasuries which are kept aside, kept on hold as they want to use these funds going forward. Billions of dollars. The attached screenshot is on about the Questbook grants tool, a decentralized grant orchestration tool which we have launched, where you get to discover all these grants posted by these protocols and you can go and apply. These billions of dollars are to be used by these protocols over the period of next 10 years. Now the protocols are figuring out, hey, now we have these treasuries. How do we grow this treasury? I have X amount, how do I make this 10X? This X amount could be in USDT, this X amount could be in their own tokens. But how do they grow this? As I started out this session, the way for a protocol to increase its treasury for now is to ensure that more people use their infrastructure. More tools are getting built, more transactions happen, more tokens are being out there in the market being used and traded. This happens if more developers come and contribute towards your infrastructure, bring in the stability to your infrastructure, ensure that your entire ecosystem is secure, ensure that all your smart contracts are audited. That brings in that credibility. So everything leads to enabling more people using your product, more people using your token. So that is why a high weightage is right now given to these developers to enable them to build out these tools, and they are incentivizing them lavishly. So much so that you might not even have to go to a VC for that fund and instead get equity free a grant amount from this protocol. But this should be really helpful for the protocol. It's a win-win situation. Okay, how are these teams, like let's look at some numbers just to get a more deeper insight of how teams are leveraging documentation, tutorials, grants and grants to onboard new devs. For documentation we have 75%, tutorials are 45%, grants that comes next with 36.7%. That's a huge number. Let me tell you, though there are other numbers like documentation, tutorials which are higher than grants, and also mentorship and support chat, this is the first time. This was never done in Web2 space. You'll find similar numbers in Web2 space, but the whole concept of enabling a developer, incentivizing a developer to, for teams to leverage this was not possible in Web2. The incentivization mechanism, the way Web3 has kicked in, I think that has been the new innovation in this space. In Web2, always, when it comes to enabling new developers, it has always been these training programs or giving out these handouts, giving out this documentation, maybe encouraging them by giving some, showing some examples of great projects that have been built. But never that you have been given a project to work on, given a project to play around, incentivized for playing around with such a project, incentivizing for a developer to come up with a new idea and build out small projects. That was never done in this Web2 space before. So Web3 is enabling that, which is encouraging more developers to come forward, encouraging more developers to contribute, come out of, like, there were a lot of non-developers who transitioned to developers, learning Solidity, Rust, and launching their own projects, who have been not introduced to code before. This was possible because of the new incentivization mechanism, really lucrative for a developer to come here and contribute. Grant programs by ecosystem players selling block space tend to fund those projects that have the likelihood which will increase the demand of it. dApps that have defined performance metrics like TVL, stable deposits, etc., tend to award grants to those projects which improve these metrics. Now, protocols have defined goals. These dApps have defined goals. They have KPIs. They have to hit these KPIs. Now, obviously, it's obvious for a protocol to incentivize those developers who are directly hitting those KPIs. Uh, like, look at it like a company. How will you run a Web2 company? Whom will you hire? Whom will you make the maximum payout in your company? To that employee who is moving the needle for your company. To that employee who is increasing that particular KPI which is the most important thing for the company. The same in Web3 space as well. Now we have defined these KPIs. You give out money to those projects which improve these metrics. These are the metrics that the protocol cares about. These are the metrics which will ensure that the protocol's token value, the entire value of the protocol goes up. And when that is the most important thing to do, it seems obvious that a protocol gives grants only to those projects, if not only, majorly to those projects which improve these KPIs. Let's talk about some NFT projects. The most interesting NFT project that I have personally come up in this space was Nouns. Do check out Nouns project. It's a very interesting project. The way they have launched, the way they have grown their community, the communication, everything is really, really cool and innovative. NFT project like Nouns tend to fund all those ideas that proliferate Nouns as an ecosystem. Nouns did a retro grant for various projects built atop based contracts and graphical projects that explore Noun aesthetic access. So these protocols, these Nouns, for example, such NFT projects encourage more things to be built on top of that. Like, how do you ensure there is more visibility for an NFT project like Nouns? How do you ensure that there is more usability of these things which are launched as part of this NFT project? How do you encourage more things to be built on top of these? Loot projects is one more example which you should take a deep look into. Very interesting projects out there. The way they have grown their community, the way they have grown their value is phenomenal. I think very, very innovative stuff. It's worth doing a deep dive into such projects. Let's come to the final observations. One thing which we have repeatedly observed is it's way more impactful for a developer team to launch their project and take feedback from the community than going out to individuals and take their individual approvals. Not just that, when you're going and connecting to these communities, the protocol is not just giving you a stage for you to connect to the community, but they're also connecting you to a lot of folks who might be important in your journey. They connect you to venture capitalists, they provide the services of auditing, they provide the services of marketing, they give their marketing muscle, they give their PR services, they provide their resources. Not just that, even the protocols also provide their core technical team. When you're stuck somewhere, it's always possible for you to go and reach out to the core team at their protocol, at your respective protocol for whom you're building out this project. They provide you with some great assistance. They also guide you on how to write this code. They provide you with their marketing services. They help you conduct these sessions on their Twitter spaces where they have huge communities, on their Telegram groups, do a Discord session. This was not at all possible in Web2 space. There was no such opportunity. So don't miss out this unique window. You also have great technical guidance from the protocols, as I was suggesting before. All you have to do is ensure that you are as composable as possible in nature when you are building out this project. The more composable you are, it's easier for you to grow. It's easier for other developers, other great minds to come and contribute and build on top of what you're building. Come and integrate these missing pieces to build out a greater project. So do not miss out on this unique window this Web3 space offers. Protocols are now dispersing funds to developers to ensure things are built on top of their infrastructure. So when you're building out a great project, when you're going out and building out something which you really love, just make sure which protocol wants this, which protocol will see value in what you're building out. Check out for grant requests which are put up on grants.questbook.app. Go apply there. We'll help you with the drafting the proposal. Just draft your proposal. The steps are very simple. Tell the protocol why it is important for the protocol to put money into this project. Not as an investment, just as a grant. These are equity free grants. You need not give out anything out of your project. You're just getting paid to go and acquire a customer, go and build out your project. Do not miss this. Thank you so much.